back, friends. This is the last week of the Every Bit Counts Challenge that was hosted by Jessica over at Three Rivers Homestead. I got a lot of stuff done. Now, the bulk of my garden was put away back in the 1st of July, but I have the whole month of August tried to find things to keep adding to the pantry. So thank you, Jessica, for a great challenge. I've been watching the other channels and I'm learning new things. So it's always a joy to be part of that challenge. Now, for this week, I had to end it early. We've got Hurricane Idalia coming up my way. So I had to stop it a couple of days early because I've got to get ready for that. And they're thinking maybe tomorrow it should be coming off my coast. So I'm all ready, got everything prepared. And if you're interested in hurricane preparedness, I've got a great video. I'll link it below on how I get prepared, because we do live on the coast and we get every major hurricane it seems like there is. We've been hit head on many times. So anyway, this one's just going to breeze past us, I think. But let me just share with you in this video what I was able to get done Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. I did put up taco soup, and this has got hamburger, corn, 2 kinds of beans, and tomatoes. And I'll go with you over this with you, show you how I did it. I did put up, I had some chicken in the freezer and I bought more whole chicken, so I'll show you how I put up chicken meat. And then I took all the bones and the skins and I added in some vegetables, made this delicious broth. So I was able to can, I think I've got 9 quarts of really good chicken stock. And then I'm going to show for you non-canners out there, this is a dry potato soup mix that I make every year. And this has about 7 servings in this little pint jar, but it's so easy to do. I'm going to show you how to do that, and it is so delicious. All you have to do is take about 1/3 cup of this, add a cup of boiling water, and you've got a really good hearty soup. So I'm going to show you how to make that potato soup mix. And then stay with me after the end of August and we go into September. I'm going to do a tour of the house. I've got it decorated for fall, and I've got a lot of my mom's chickens all throughout the house, so stay tuned for that. So again, thank you all for watching. Thank you to all my new subscribers. I'm so excited that you're here, and let's get busy showing you what I was able to get done in this short week. The first thing I did was to make this taco soup base. So I'm using cans of crushed tomatoes. I've got frozen corn. I've got black beans and pinto beans. And then I've got some hamburger meat in the freezer. Now, I'm not adding the taco seasoning now because there is cornmeal in that. That will be added when I open the jars and get ready to serve it. So here in the pot I have ground beef from the freezer, and I am browning it. And I've got my jars washed, getting ready to put those in the canner. And in the pot I have the brown hamburger. I've got the 2 packages of sweet corn. I've got the beans. I cooked the chopped onion in with the hamburger. And so I'm just going to stir this all up. Look how delicious that looks. And then I'm starting to add the cans of crushed tomatoes. So in go the cans. I can't remember exactly, maybe 4 of the big cans of crushed tomatoes. And then I'm going to mix all this up. Now the reason I did not add the taco seasoning now is because you cannot can any kind of grains. And on my jar, they use cornmeal as a thickener. And you cannot pressure can that. So there's the pot with all of the tomatoes, the vegetables. I'm adding in 4 cups of beef broth. And now I've got a nice pot of soup. And I'm going to cook this bring it to a boil for about 5 minutes, and then we'll start jarring it up. So I've got my canning station all set up. I've got my jars hot, the soup is hot, and so I'm just going to start filling the jars with this taco soup mix. And remember, we did not add the spice. We will add that later when it's time to eat it. Now there's so much you can do with this base. You can pour it over rice. You can eat it as a soup with tortilla chips. You could pour this over tortilla chips. It is so good, so versatile. You could even open up a jar and add in some potatoes and green beans, and you've got a nice hamburger vegetable soup. So I ended up with 7 quarts of this soup, and then I filled 3-gallon bags with the rest, and I put that in the freezer. So we've got plenty of good hearty meals during the winter. So I'm just ladling this right into the jar. The jars are hot. I'm going to leave a 1-inch headspace, then put on my lids and rings, and then put it all in the pressure canner. And there you have it, 7 quarts of delicious taco soup mix. And I can't wait for the weather to get nice and cool and we can open up a jar and enjoy this delicious soup. Now the next day I went to my local food line. They had these fryers for 99 cents a pound. That is a really good deal. So I picked up 2, and I already had 2 in the freezer. So a total of 4 chickens are going to go in the crock pot and in a big pot on the stove. I'm going to cook all these, and then I'm going to be taking the meat off and pressure canning it. So here are the 2 birds that I put in my big stock pot, and I just boiled these until they were done and falling off the bones. These 2 I put in crock pots, cut them on high. So I've got all these chickens going at the same time, and it worked really good. I like to watch the sale ads and pick up things on sale, especially meat, and so 99 cents a pound was a good deal on this chicken, although I can remember my mama buying it for like 29 cents a pound when I was young, and she would stock her freezer up with those. But I'm taking this meat off the bone, and I've pulled the chickens out of the stock. I have saved that broth. It is beautiful, and I'm going to be making some delicious chicken broth with that, so stay with me on that. So right now I'm just taking all the meat off and the skin off the bone and putting that into a pot, and then we'll be packing those into some sterilized canning jars. Okay, we've got all the meat off the chicken. I've got some hot broth, and my jars are hot, and so I'm going to start packing those jars, and these are pint-sized jars, which is plenty for my husband and I. And I'm just loosely packing this down and then tap it, and just going to pack each jar with the chicken meat. Pull apart the pieces. You don't want great big thick chunks. And then I'm going to be adding in the broth to a 1-inch headspace. I'm going to debubble, put on the lids and rings, and place these in the pressure canner. Now you're going to pressure can these in my area at 10 pounds of pressure for 75 minutes. Always check your altitude to make sure you are pressure canning at the right altitude. And so that's a very simple process. I'm going to wipe that rim off with a paper towel dipped in some vinegar to make sure there is no grease on the rim, so I'll get a really good seal. I did add a half a teaspoon of canning salt to each jar. Now, some of the ways that I use this chicken meat throughout the year is, of course, a nice big pot of chicken and rice. I can use this in my Brunswick stew. I love chicken and pastry. So all I need to do is open up a jar of broth, a jar of the chicken meat, and add in some pastry strips, and it's so delicious. But there's just so many ways to use this delicious meat, and it stays on the counter. It doesn't take up room in my freezer. So I really enjoy putting up chicken. It's a long process, but it certainly is worth it. So I have, it looks like 9 pints in the canner, and I had enough left over to make a great big delicious chicken casserole with the cream of chicken soup and the Pepperidge Farm stuffing. So I was able to make one of those for our dinner, and I got the canner all ready to go. I did put the lid on. I always check my ring and my valve to make sure it's not blocked. And then I process this for 75 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. All right, so later I have poured all of the broth into one big pot. I'm going to be adding 1 onion that has been cut into sections. I'm going to add in some of my dehydrated garlic, carrots, celery, and I will bring this to a boil and just let it simmer on the stove for about an hour. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of pink Himalayan salt. It's full of nutrients. It's so good for you. Then I just let this sit on the stove and simmer until the vegetables were very tender. And now I am going to process these in the pressure canner. So I have my quart jars sitting in hot water getting sterilized, and then I have strained off all of the vegetables off that broth. It is absolutely delicious, and this is perfect for sipping when you're sick with the cold or a flu. You can just sip this broth. I use it in my soups. It is so good and so healthy, and I know exactly what goes into my broth, and that's why I always enjoy making it. So I was able to get 9 quarts. 2 of the quarts I had to put in the refrigerator, but I'm going to be making some chicken and pastry later in the week. So I'm real excited about that. So here is the end result of a very long day, the beautiful chicken broth and the pints of chicken meat. So that was a long but very successful day. So let's move along now to a dry potato soup mix. So what you're going to need is some potato flakes, some powdered milk. Make sure you have the flakes and not the little buds. You're going to need a lot of good spices: turmeric, parsley flakes, celery salt, onion powder, nutritional yeast flakes, thyme leaves, black pepper, and chicken bouillon powder. So all of that will go into our mix. So let me show you how easy it is to put this together. So in a mixer or a food processor, I'm going to be adding in 1 3/4 cups of potato flakes. Now I open my boxes of potato flakes and store them in a glass jar, so that's why you see them in that pickle jar. They just stay safe longer in the pantry that way. So I'm going to be adding 1 3/4 cup of the potatoes into that food processor. Now we're going to be adding in 1 1/2 cups of this powdered milk. This is my favorite powdered milk. You can pick this up at Walmart. You will find it in the Hispanic aisles where that food is, or you can order it on Amazon. I'm going to leave this recipe in the description box below with the name of that powdered milk for you, and then all the measurements of all of these spices. Now, I love Nutritional yeast. It is so good for you. It is full of B vitamins, and it gives the mix a really rich, buttery taste. So you can find that at Walmart. So look for Nutritional yeast. I've got all kinds of different spices. You could add whatever you like in your potato soup mix, but I'm adding in turmeric, parsley flakes, thyme. All of this will be mixed together. Pepper, onion powder. You could even do chopped, dehydrated, or freeze-dried chives. Whatever you like, you can add into this dry mix. It just needs to be dry. So again, I'll leave all those ingredients and the measurements in the description box below. Now I wanted a nice hearty chicken taste to this potato soup mix, so I did add 3 teaspoons, which ended up being 3 packets of the chicken bouillon. I had those in my pantry, and so I added that in as well. Now that all the ingredients are in the food processor, it is time to put on the lid and pulse this or let it run on high until those flakes are nicely broken up and everything is mixed together. If you don't break up your flakes, your soup will be like mashed potatoes. So you really want to not skip this step. You want to pulse and get those potatoes broken down and the milk mixed in with them and all the spices. So I did run this for about a minute, and then I stirred it, checked everything, and then I pulsed it a few more times until I had it like a powdery consistency. To stock my pantry, I made this recipe 3 times, and I ended up with 4.5 pint jars. Then once I got it at the right consistency, I just spoon it into a clean pint jar. You could put this in a larger jar. Any kind of a glass jar would work great. And then I just put a lid on it and then put this in the pantry. So it's really good and delicious. I used to make this for my mom, who had a lot of trouble with her mouth and could not eat solid food, and she really enjoyed this soup mix. I'm going to show you how easy it is to make. I've got my little tea kettle with boiling hot water. These are the 4 jars. That is exactly 28 servings of soup mix. So the recipe that I originally followed said to measure out 1/4 of a cup of the powder mix to 1 cup of boiling water. I ended up actually enjoying the 3rd cup measurement. It was a little bit thicker and had a better taste to me. So I used 1/3 of a cup of the dry mix and then 1 cup of boiling water. And you just pour that water right over the mix. That does need to sit for 2 to 3 minutes until everything thickens up and dissolves, but it is so delicious. So now I've got 28 servings of a delicious potato soup dry mix in the pantry that I can have whenever I need a delicious, quick, hearty soup. So this has been a great challenge. I've got my pantry nice and full. I am very grateful to Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead. I hope that you will subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for more canning projects, some Christmas gift making, and of course the fall tour coming up. Thank you all for watching. Have a blessed day.